Hi, everybody. This is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are November's horoscopes. So this is the sun sign horoscope for Scorpios for November 2018. You can also listen to this if you are a Scorpio rising, maybe even Scorpio moon. So let's go ahead and dive in. There's a lot happening this month, a lot that's worth looking into. The month from where I'm standing looks like it really gets started November 7th. On the 7th, you're going to have a new moon in Scorpio, your home sign, falling in the first house. It's a new beginning for you. It's a new chapter. The month ahead may involve a deeper level of personal transformation and change, which is more emotionally raw or vulnerable, but this is not totally new territory for you as a Scorpio. Now, in addition to this kind of new personal feeling of, a new chapter, a personal new beginning, that's, more, it's centered on your first house. It's about as personal as it gets. New moon in the first to start the month. This is your birthday season. It's a time to start a new chapter, plant a new seed, take a new direction, make a new intention. Strong energy behind you right now for that purpose. But all month long, Venus is in the 12th house, opposite Uranus in Aries in the 6th house, which means that the Venus retrograde is continuing. Venus was retrograde in your home sign last month. A lot of heavy personal changes there, maybe especially changes in relationships that are affecting you pretty personally. The themes of loss, pain, grief, suffering, death, those are all, a little bit heavier themes for Scorpio. I mean, Scorpio is usually sort of associated with those themes, maybe a little bit heavier and more intense, especially in relationships with Venus being retrograde in Scorpio. Now Venus is retrograde in your 12th house in Libra, opposing Uranus in the 6th. These are difficult houses. These two houses traditionally were called bad spirit and bad fortune simultaneously. And lots of good can come out of them, but they require us to face shadows, to deal with setbacks and hard work or sickness or things that we have to labor through that we don't want to, or loss or disappointment and sometimes loneliness or frustration. But this Venus, Uranus in the 12th and 6th. You want to be very careful. Can be a moment where there are sudden changes in relationships that are a bit more electric and unstable or disruptive. You have to be really careful of being somewhat self-destructive this month with Venus retrograde in the 12th. It's easy to get obsessed, to be a little, overly jealous of the sort of Scorpio things that can come up sometimes. You also want to be especially, you want to be thinking about the themes of independence versus dependence in your relationships. Venus opposite Uranus often craves for freedom, greater experimentation and originality or inventiveness in relationships. But you're on the brink of a breakthrough in your romantic life or your romantic relationships right now, or a spouse or a partner may be changing in some dramatic way or going through a challenging time. This too shall pass. On November 17th, Venus turns direct. You might see any difficult or more strenuous themes in relationships starting to shift or change for the better around that time. But November 30th, Venus will oppose Uranus one last time, bringing things to a head and sort of representing a culmination of a long process of Venus-related challenges, breakdowns, etc. So you want to just beware that those changes and challenges are ahead this month. Again, the good news is that Venus is turning direct. By the end of November, there's really a pretty good indication, along with the new moon to start the month, that you're starting a new chapter now, and some of these harder challenges will be, you'll be moving past them. All right, so the good news is that on November 8th, Jupiter is going to enter Sagittarius. I'll actually put it forward to the 9th so you can see it. But on the 8th into the 9th, Jupiter will enter Sagittarius and move into your financial house for the next year. That's awesome because Jupiter is a planet of good fortune, expansion, augmentation, making something bigger. Jupiter is entering your second house of money, finances, resources, suggesting that in the year ahead, there is the opportunity for growth or expansion financially. Or it could be a time where you're investing Or it could be a time where you are planting the seeds for future growth or development in a business or a career of some kind. Promotion is available. So it's a kind of a lucrative year with Jupiter in your second house. However, big money sometimes is more about big spending than it is big earnings. So you also want to be careful about living within your means in the year ahead, not sort of overdoing things, whether that's lifestyle, diet, money, spending, etc. Can be a planet of excess. But on the other hand, bigness in life, and especially sort of bigness in finances sometimes is sweet and wonderful. And, again, it just brings can bring windfalls and nice things like that to look forward to. Mostly, I'd be very optimistic about this transit if I were you. So, all right. So going forward from the entrance of Jupiter into Sagittarius on November 15th, I like this transit as well. The planet, I'll have to push it forward to the 16th so you can actually see it, but planet Mars on the 15th will be entering Pisces, moving into your 5th house, out of the 4th house of home, family, property, where it has been since middle of May. So if you can imagine that you've had Mars, god of war, in your house of home, family, and property since the middle of May, plus a long summer retrograde of Mars in your 4th house, you are probably ready to move on from Mars being in Aquarius, right? I know I am. Mars is going to move into Pisces in your 5th house. The 5th house is a house that's about pleasure, fun, creativity, the arts, performance, children, pregnancy. Mars is in moving into that house may have to do with the themes of sacrifice, self-sacrifice. Your ruling planet is Mars, so sacrifice on behalf of your children could be a theme, or sacrifice on behalf of a creative endeavor where you have to pour yourself into something with great effort and emotional passion in order to get something done. So Mars in Pisces is very passionate and intense, but also it's sensitive. So it's a time where you might be on a bit of a crusade, a mission, a creative crusade or mission. Sometimes you can overdo things. It can be a little hedonistic. You can go to extremes. So you do want to be careful about kind of drinking too much or going out too much or spending too much. Mars, of course, is going to square Jupiter by November 19th, back in your 2nd house of money and resources. So you want to be careful of speculative things like gambling or risky investments, or, again, spending too much on things that are sort of frivolous. But otherwise, you also think about maybe putting more of your resources into that which gives you happiness and joy, or putting more resources into things that you feel are going to be creatively fruitful or productive in time. So it's an interesting transit. Now, you're going to start to see these two houses getting lit up over and over again. For example, by the 17th, right around there, Mercury is turning retrograde in your 2nd house of finances in a square to Neptune in the 5th house. Okay, so now Mercury is going to turn retrograde in your 2nd house of finances, which can bring some snafus, some, that can bring some issues, some setbacks, some delays or reversals in your financial house, or with regard to things that you own, possess, sell, buy, bills, as well as just your lifestyle in general. There can be revisions that you need to make, or some challenges or setbacks that are happening there. Square to Neptune in the 5th, this may have something to do with a child, or helping a child, or having your kid gets in a jam at college. You got to whatever, you got to pay for them to get a new computer, or God knows what. But the other thing you want to be careful of is, again, the potential to let go of your better discernment. Mercury Neptune can indicate a loss of boundaries, or the inability to think or reason clearly through something. With the 5th and 2nd, you want to think about things like lifestyle, diet, money, but also what you do for fun, and where you find pleasure or joy, and maybe not making the wisest choices or not seeing things entirely clearly in those areas. But on the other hand, this could also be a moment of greater creative vision or inspiration, messages, omens, symbols that appear and somehow speak to you that may give you creative insight. So it could be a very inspiring time, especially creatively, where you may find that there's the potential to, take a turn with a creative project, like a shift or a reorientation of where you're going creatively. So the second, fifth house, though, as you can see, continuing to get lit up. Now, go forward to the 22nd into the 23rd, and right as soon as we get to the full moon, then look, you're seeing full moon in the 8th house in Gemini opposing the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Sagittarius, creating a T-square with Mars and Neptune in the 5th house. So, wow, this is a big moment. The conversation about money, values, resources in relationships might start to become more pronounced around this time, with the full moon falling in the 8th house of other people's money and resources or other people's values. Dependence versus independence. How much am I sacrificing? How much am I giving? How much should I give? How much should you give? Themes of also what kinds of compromises you're willing to make or not make. The level of integrity that you need to have right now is high, because it would be very easy to make some dumb decisions, especially around relationships and money. Maybe because you're feeling passionate about something, because you want to help something, or because you have a vision of something that's going to make you happy, that you are willing to make ethical compromises that aren't a good idea. So you want to be careful of that. But this full moon may also indicate that there are changes happening around you. The 8th house is a house of death and change and impermanence. The full moon in that house can bring changes that, they can bring changes or unexpected challenges that affect your wallet, or that, that force you to redefine what you're doing with your time and energy and resources. And again, this 5th house is a funny place to have in the mix of the 2nd and 8th, because the 5th house is really a creative and joyful place, and a place that is about where we're seeking sort of pleasure. 2nd and the 8th is, they're a little dicier. These two houses were traditionally called the gate of Hades. They have more to do with gain and loss. And so putting all of that together, it's a really interesting month where I think you're asking the question of, what do I have to do to be a little bit more free, to be a little bit happier, to have a little bit more creative or even sexual or romantic freedom or excitement? But what lengths am I willing to go to get it? So these are some of the questions that I'm seeing. There's others too that could come up. But that's where the month ends, with that full moon. And then beyond that, again, you go to the Venus-Uranus opposition toward the end of the month. Things are really coming to a head again in relationships at the very end of the month. So all good things to think about. I can't wait to hear from you. I hope that you'll share your stories or how you're sort of processing or seeing these energies play out in your life. And I look forward to connecting with you again for December's horoscopes. All right. Take care, Scorpios. Bye.